Welcome to Pre-Snap Podcast, presented by LineStar app. Here's your host, Casey Bubba and Scott Bogman.
And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Pre-Snap Podcast, brought to you by the wonderful people at LineStar Sports. Make sure you download the app in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, and follow them on Twitter at LineStar app and at LineStar NFL. We are here for your Thursday night football preview, the battle between the San Francisco 49ers and the Tennessee Titans down there in Nashville, Tennessee. You can find myself on Twitter at BDentric and my co-host, as always, on Twitter at Bogman Sports. Scott Bogman, how we doing, my friend?
Doing pretty good. I hope this is a good game. I think this is a Niners walk here. I just don't think Tennessee has been very good since Derrick Henry left or got hurt. So I think the Niners win. So it's tough to not have a ton of Niners in your lineup, right, bub?
That was my joke I made right before we recorded. I'm trying to build our lineup for our competition, and it's hard not having every single Niner and justifying who you're using elsewhere. Tons of fun on this one. So we'll see where our builds line out together, but it looks like it's in our head. We think it's going to be a rout. Niners -3, Bogman, with a nice over/under in this game of 44.5. So, how do you, in your head, how do you play this one out?
I think the Niners win going away a little bit. I think the Titans could play comeback a little bit. We've seen the Niners. Just think back to week one, obviously a very different team than they were in week one at this point, but they did let Detroit come way back on them. So I think we could see one of those games where it's all right. This is the Niners. Let me put on, a Christmas movie or something. And then you come back and you're like, okay, how are they only up by 9 now? This is a 2-score game. How did that happen? I think it could be one of those. So for my captain, I'm going to roll out Jimmy G. I love to use a quarterback. I know they're expensive. I get it. But Jimmy G 15-6 as a captain this week. I think the only guy more expensive than him is George Kittle, if you're going to use him as captain. Spoiler alert, I do not have George Kittle in my lineup. So I'm going to go with Jimmy G at 15-6 as my number one player.
That is music to my ears that you don't have him in your lineup. So, because George Kittle is my Capitan.
No, there we go.
This week. I'm trying, because I think most people will go to someone, we'll talk. I'm pretty sure both of us will have in our lineups. There's probably a couple guys that we both have in our lineups that people might go to in this game, but one's very, very cheap. So you can make him your captain and pretty much have whatever you want. If you're playing cash, you should have him as your captain. I'll mention him when we talk about him. But I'm going to go George Kittle for the fact that he has the highest ceiling in this entire game. So if you're going with the 1.5x a captain and you want to go for broke, that you want to go George Kittle. That's my 2 cents. We know he can bust off the big runs, even for a tight receptions, even for a tight end. He can do it in bulk. He can find the end zone a couple times. There's a lot Kittle can do. So I'm going to take my chances there with George Kittle having a monster game. Tight ends on prime time weirdly has been a big thing this year. So give me Kittle as my captain in this game. And we'll see how it plays out. But that's where I'm going at captain.
For the rest of my lineup here, I'm just going to assume we both have Debo, right?
Yes, we both have Debo.
Okay. We both have Debo. Do you have Brandon Ayuk?
I'm trying to decide if I want to go heavy on this. I have Ayuk as of now, yes.
Okay. I also have Ayuk. So those two scratch each other off. Do you want to give one? See if we have another one.
Yeah. The cheap one I was mentioning is Jeff Wilson Jr.
5,200.
He's 5,200. Yes. He's super cheap as a captain with Elijah Mitchell out. We've seen 2 games where he did nothing. We saw last week where he did it all. If you think the Niners dominate this game, and we saw the passing game have success with Jeff Wilson as well, that's just like a free square.
I put AJ Brown in my lineup. He's not cheap. He's 8,800, but I tell you what, I'm not going with Foreman against the Niners, especially coming off that weird injury. I don't like any of the other Tennessee running backs. So it's Nick Westbrook, Akina, or AJ Brown. I think I would rather go with AJ Brown just for maybe even if he's on a snap count. So AJ Brown is one guy that I have that I bet you probably don't have.
No, I do not, because I have Nick Westbrook, Akina.
All right.
For the fact that I think they might want to, bracket AJ Brown.
I mean, they might. Julio's going to play though too. So
yeah, he doesn't scare me. He'll play 3 snaps, 4 snaps.
I mean, okay.
I'm being facetious, but
you could be right. My point is the reason I didn't go with Akina is because Julio's playing.
no,
I think Julio
I was scared
doesn't
to play him at first.
Julio doesn't play, then I probably would have put Westbrook Akina.
Actually, let me say this now. I'm gonna take Akina out. I'm gonna go back to the guy I had originally. So I'll leave him out. I had the Niners defense originally.
Ooh, that's a good play. That's smart. I like that.
Yeah.
That's
so I'll put the Niners defense back in.
Chess versus checkers. So all right. So I'm gonna go with AJ Brown. I hope he just gets in the end zone, right? And my last one is gonna be because I do think Brown is gonna be on a snap count, and we don't know how long our boy Julio is going to last. Cody Hollister had a bunch of snaps last week and ran a bunch of routes, and he's $400. So
I love that value.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the best of that cheap bunch down there. So to reiterate, Jimmy G at captain, Debo, AJ Brown, Ayuk, Jeff Wilson, Cody Hollister. That's my lineup.
Yeah, no, I love that value. There's a lot of weird value in this one. It's like, it's very good for tournament plays. A lot of sneaky potential value in this slate. It just sucks. There's not like a lot of pay up spots I'm in love with. Like, okay, you can pay for Jimmy like you did. We haven't seen the ceiling from Jimmy, but it's a pretty safe play, especially if you think they get it done. Tannehill, we haven't seen him do much of anything lately. It's pretty much Debo and Kittle that's worth paying for, and that's where it gets interesting because then you can come down a lot. You get a lot of mid-priced guys. So my final guy is Hilliard at $2,800. I was going to go with Foreman, but I went Hilliard just for the fact that he's cheaper. And if they are playing from behind, he's going to get now, last week, Foreman got a ton of the passing game, but Hilliard still got his. He almost got you 10 DraftKings points last week. And I see a similar, he's going to get a lot of work again this week. That's the way I see it playing out. We saw Pittsburgh give it up to Tennessee. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Hilliard get it in the passing game, at least against the Niners. So I have Kittle at captain, Debo, Wilson, Hilliard, Niners defense, and Ayuk. Ayuk's actually the one guy I'm not like over the moon about on this lineup. I'm kind of torn on him, but I'm there.
Well, I tell you what I like about Ayuk is that with Eli not playing, we know that Debo's going to get more carries. So Ayuk should be the number one wideout again.
And I left $1,800 on the table, so it'll be
it'll make it for me.
It'll make it a unique lineup. That's one thing you can do. It's not a must, but you can. A couple things to keep an eye on. Like, I love the call you had with Hollister for $400. I think that's a very, very good one. But I want to mention a couple others if you're just going, hunting. Hasty's always a random PPR guy that might find his way to the end zone. Juice Chick is always a money potential end zone guy.
Juice.
$1,800. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. You got the tight ends for Tennessee with Swayman and Fursker. Not in love with them, but you got them. You got the kickers, Bullock and Gold. They're okay. But if you want tournament plays, like you mentioned, Westbrook Akina is interesting. Jawan Jennings at 5K. That's an interesting one. That's all I'm going to say, because he gets red zone looks, and that's where it can get interesting.
Yeah, I mean, just some like super deep ones here. If you're looking to just throw a dart, Charlie Warner played like 25% of the snaps at tight end for the Niners last week. He's at least playing above Dwelly, not getting a lot, but he's a punt. He's I believe $300. Racing McMath, the wide receiver for Tennessee, played a handful of snaps and fumbled. Probably not looking at him to play much, but he's 300 as well. So these are just a couple absolute punts. I'm willing to take the 0, and I can't go all the way up to Hasty, Juice, McNichols, or like Michael Pruitt. Those guys. I don't want to pay up for the Niners defense. Those are some pure punt plays at the very bottom of the track here.
It should be interesting. And the one thing is, if you want to be real sneaky, as Bogman said, if you think the Niners defense lets Tennessee hang around, they're going to be super low rostered. People are going to have the same mindset we have, where Niners. If you're playing cash, you can load up on some big time names and get a pretty good roster put together there. But if you want to go the Tennessee side of it, you could make some interesting builds. That's for sure. It'll be super unique. So something to keep in mind as you're building there. Go check out the LineStar app. They can tell you about past lineups that have won the showdowns. That'll give you all the insights on what you need. And I know in recent years, the team, the underdog in the game, usually like a 4-2 dog stack does well because they're having to throw a lot. Garbage time is a beautiful thing. So it is something to keep in mind as well. But any final thoughts, Bogman, as we wrap up our Thursday night preview?
No, I hope it's a good one. I hope COVID doesn't mess anything else up in this game. So let's just get this one played. So at least we have one game in the books for this week.
Yeah, just like last week, we felt great after the Chiefs Chargers game.
It was a good game.
It was a great game. Let's get another one of those. Let's have a palooza. That'd be great. But until then, make sure you check out LineStar on Twitter at LineStar app and at LineStar NFL. Bogman at Bogman Sports. I'm at Pediatric. Good luck on your Thursday night. We'll be back with your full main slate preview on Friday. Catch you all later.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Pre-Snap Podcast, presented by LineStar app. Please like, comment, subscribe, and rate for good karma in your fantasy football games.